All right, and welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Paper Begone. Tax season is here, and that means some of your older records can now be disposed of. But you want to do it wisely, you want to do it safely, and environmentally friendly is how you want to do it. Paper Begone can shred your documents for you. They can destroy old computer hard drives even, and they can take care of medical records. They can destroy x-rays. So if your business is looking to safely, securely dispose of old documents, old records, even old hard drives, team to call is Paper Begone. The same good people who've been doing Junk Begone for years now do Paper Begone. I believe in both these companies wholeheartedly. Give them a shout this week. Okay, take a look at these numbers. Since the league expanded in 2012, you see, and these are the SEC only records. So this is regular season. This doesn't count the championship game. Those are regular season records and the winning percentages over an 11-year span. Only two teams, Alabama and Georgia, have won more than 70% of their SEC games. Only 4 teams have won more than 60%. Only 4 have won more than 60%. So if you're sitting there thinking, we should go 7-1, 6-2 every year. No, that just doesn't happen. Here's the one that'll blow your mind. Over these 11 seasons, you can look. There are only 5 teams who've won more than 50% of their games. And you're saying, well, that doesn't work out mathematically. Yes, it does when you have Alabama and Georgia just beating the heck out of everybody. They thump everybody, so everybody else is down on that list. You see Tennessee way down there at 38%. But when you look at that, and we talk about what we mentioned in that last segment about fans being satisfied, well, I don't know what they're going to be satisfied. Look at LSU. If I had said before I put that number up there, would Tennessee fans trade places with LSU, I think everyone would say, yeah, that's the third best team in the SEC. We want that. Take a look at what LSU has done. They are on their third coach in this span, folks. Okay, now they have one national title. Hard to argue with that. One SEC title that same year, 15-0. It was a magical year. They won the West last year, went to Atlanta, but over a 10-year span, 10-3, 10-3, 8-5, blah blah. You know, I don't know if that's acceptable when a guy's making $9 million and they've tasted the manna that they tasted last year. Your thoughts? Would Tennessee fans be accepting of that kind of run right there, especially when we add 2 more teams and another game to it? Josh.
I would hope so, but I have these numbers which include multiple fired coaches, and then the next school on the list was Florida, right? Well, they don't even have any SEC titles or certainly national titles in that time, and they have multiple fired coaches. And I don't think the Florida fan base is happy right now either. They're 4th on the list.
Yes.
So,
well, I think
you can.
I think we can take a page from our ghost guest panelist over here, Butch Jones, and he can tell you without doubt that that's not going to get the job done, because I think the biggest problem that LSU has had over that decade, and Tennessee fans can relate, misallocation of talent. You're too talented to have that sort of winning percentage, not only in your state and recruiting and what you've had on your roster. That's a problem. And so, no, Tennessee fires probably 2 coaches in that span. In reality,
just as LSU did.
Yeah. Yes. Probably. I bet you half the SEC probably fires 2 coaches in that span, just like LSU did, because in the SEC, there's, 8 programs that think they should be competing for championships, if not every year, close to every year, and they don't.
This is just it, though. They aren't satisfied with competing for championships. They think they should be winning championships every year. Justin, you've been on that side of it. Your thoughts on all this?
I did not used to have this gray in my beard until some years in coaching. I moved to Knoxville in 2007, the first time I moved here. Haven't lived here since then, obviously, but one of the first things when people realized that I was a Virginia Tech guy was SEC, just pounding the table for the SEC over the ACC, and I'm not arguing that whatsoever. Right. But in a league that is top to bottom as good, and I mean as good by producing quality NFL players, producing guys that have 3 or more years in their careers, you are going to lose some games. Someone has to lose. And you have a Georgia and an Alabama that surface, a Florida with Urban Meyer. Those teams surface, and that becomes, we can see that. Why can our program not become that? That's exactly what happens. And the reality is, week to week, and I don't mean to keep bringing up the South Carolina game, but week to week, when you step foot on the field with an SEC opponent, they're probably good enough to beat you if you don't play at your best, unless you're Alabama and Georgia, and even they have slipped up and lost games that they should never have lost. It's a very tough, it's the best league in the country, head and shoulders above any other league there is.
I think when you look at it, Josh, you're looking at the reality when you go to a 9th game. instead of looking at it saying, well, we should have been 7-1 this year, shouldn't have lost to South Carolina, the reality is you're probably going to average over a 10-year span, even if you're top end of the league, not Alabama, Georgia, but you're the third or fourth best program, you're probably going to average 3 losses in the SEC per year. And that still may get you in the playoff. Probably will get you in the playoff if your only losses are in the league. But that's going to require a different mindset because losing 3 conference games is unacceptable. And the reality is, well, it's the reality.
How many times do we have this should have conversation? This team should have won that game. It's happened a lot in Knoxville, right? But the problem is all these other fan bases of SEC schools get to the end of the season, we should have won that game because they're all paying coaches. They're all accumulating
There is
talent.
going to be an
Lost
element
to
of like
Tennessee in their
there's
view,
going to be an element of the basketball conversation. If you sneak in the playoff and you're 8-4, or 9-3, or whatever, and then you win a couple games that maybe you shouldn't win, and you're all of a sudden in the Final Four, you get to the championship game, that changes the conversation your whole season. If you go 12-0, 13-0, whatever, get in the playoff, and you get upset by your first game at home, that changes the tenor of your whole season. So we'll see. But anyway, welcome Texas and Oklahoma. Enjoy. It's gonna be great. I hope the money's worth it.
You're going to love it.
I understand the disappointment in losing to Georgia 27-13 and how the score was a little more than what the game was more than what the score indicated.
Yeah.
But look at TCU. They had the most magical season that they've had ever. They go onto the national stage and they lose by 58 points to this Georgia team that just replaced 15 draft picks from the previous season. The SEC is a cut above. It's extremely difficult to win one game in the SEC, say Vanderbilt, but even they've had their years. It's a difficult league.
Yeah.
To the recruiting segment, you have another level of, we can talk recruiting or transfer portal, whatever. You have to accumulate more talent. Because you can have rosters good enough to beat Alabama, lose to South Carolina. That applies across the board except for to Alabama.
And maintaining depth in the portal era is going to be really, really hard.
Yes.
Really hard, which you're going to have to do. And you may get to the point where the lucky teams at the end are the ones that stay healthy and those ones that are winning games
Well,
in January.
that's what happens in the Super Bowl. Every year you look at the NFL team that wins the Super Bowl is typically going to be pretty healthy.
Yeah.
And the teams that fall apart, they don't make it that far. So, yeah, that's going to be a huge part. All right. Thanks to all these guys. Thanks to the guys who came before them and already left today. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of our sponsors. Get out and visit them this week. We'll see you right back here live next Sunday to discuss Rick Barnes versus Bruce Pearl, part whatever part it is. See you then.